Okay guys, how's it? This is Koa speaking again. Today I'm going to talk about the UV unwrapping inside of Maya, and we're going to take the previous project of the mouse. As you guys can see, I've already refined this to look a little bit better than the previous tutorial. So I've spent some time remaking certain details, refining it, and so on and so forth. And so the next lesson is for us to actually unwrap it, and what you see here is essentially my 2015's new UV unwrapping tools and features. I've turned on the heat map as well as the checker texture. So these two buttons over here at the top allows us to essentially quickly turn on the different revealing modes to see stretching or compression on the textures. So these are great. If you guys are not using 2015, I highly recommend you guys actually download some sort of a test texture. So I've got a little example here. If I just quickly open this up on the internet browser, and you guys can see that I've literally just typed in test texture here on Google Images, and I've found a few images that we can use to bring inside of Maya, and then actually use to see if there's any stretching or compression or overlapping and so on and so forth. This one in particular is probably my most favorite one because it not only has a color variation, it also makes use of numbers. As you can see here at the top, it starts at 0.0 and goes all the way to 0.9 0.9. So you've actually got a full range of UVs from 00 to 0.9. So this is a great one if you guys do not have 2015 and can't take advantage of those new features. Okay, great. So this one is already laid out, so I'm going to actually just show you guys my approach of laying this out from scratch so you can see exactly the best workflow to my opinion, and how to kind of get this result. Okay, first of all, I'm going to turn off all these extra fancy features and just quickly look at my base mesh, and I'm going to reveal to you guys that there's a lot of border edges around the model. These are texture border edges. We essentially get two types of border edges. You get geometry edges, and then you get UV based border edges, and one is related to UV space borders and the other one is related to geometry border edges. So if I take a face for instance, just to kind of explain the difference between the two, if I cut into my model and I physically delete the polygon, you'll see there's a border edge around the model, and this is referred to as border edges. This is literally where there's a hole or opening inside of the model, and that's causing the model to be essentially hollow. So just look out for that whenever you guys are working, that you understand the difference between geometry border edges and then UV border edges, which essentially is just a seam line where I cut the model up, and that's the outer side of the UV borders. So what I'm going to do next is actually go in, delete the UVs, and start from scratch and see, kind of explain to you guys how I'm going to go about it. So first things first, have the model selected, and I'm going to get rid of the UVs down here at the bottom. Under UV editor, polygons, delete UVs. So once I do that, it's essentially going to disappear, and I can now define where I want the seams or the cut lines or the border edges, if you will, to kind of allow us to unfold this character into a two-dimensional space. Now, if you guys are not sure what UVs mean and what they allow us to do, quick background. A model essentially starts off as a three-dimensional shape, whereas when we're applying a texture, the texture is in a two-dimensional space. two-dimensional space, meaning it's got pixels, and the pixels need to know where to be placed on a three-dimensional model. So essentially the UVs are like the bridge between a two-dimensional space and a three-dimensional space, and that kind of creates a coordinate space that allows us to then place a specific pixel on a specific spot on the 3D model. For every vertex that we have here on the model, we also have UVs that correspond to the equal vertex. So if I essentially lay this out, I'm going to have a polygon that is within my UV space that allows us to then place a pixel or paint a pixel or color information onto that polygon, and we know that essentially it's going to fit within this area. So that's kind of my explanation to UVs and how we use them. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do something very unconventional to a typical UV layout. Most people actually jump in here, create UVs, and start using these different mapping methods. What I'm going to do is I kind of prefer using the planar mapping, as this is a brand new method that I've recently discovered, and that kind of works very, very well in my opinion. So first things first, grabbing all the polygons. I'm going to go here at the top, do a planar map. I'm going to choose to go into the options. So wherever you see these checkboxes, these little cubes, those are extra options for every window that we go into. And so I go to create planar mapping into the option box, and this is going to bring the options for the planar mapping. And based on my character direction facing in the z-axis as the front, I'm going to make sure that my planar projection is heading towards the z-axis. Now it depends on your character how you're going to create it. It might be facing the x-axis, and just change the projection coordinate according to that direction. Additionally, I'm going to also turn on the keep image width and height ratio. This is going to allow us to keep the projection square to the image or to the space of the model, so that the model doesn't actually compress or stretch inside of the texture space. Once I'm done with that, I'm just going to hit apply, and as you can see, I've got a projection facing straight forward. With this front projection, I'm going to essentially jump to my UV space and quickly have a look what we have here. We've got the character projected into the UV space, but now the projection is essentially projecting every face into the UV space. What this is causing us is stretching along the edges of the model, because this projection goes right through the character, and then it's capturing the front and the back and the sides, pretty much all the polygons in a front projection, and that is incorrect. We want to essentially have different projections for different parts. That is the normal workflow. I'm not going to go and use the normal workflow. I'm actually going to use this and then define where I want the seams or the cut lines. So this is where it's much different from the regular select faces, go to the different mapping methods, and then projecting that. So I'm first projecting all of it, and that leaves me with the full projection of the whole model inside UV space. And then I can easily jump into edges and start selecting where I want to add the cut lines for the different UV borders. So I've got a bit of an extra feature going on here. I've turned on the modeling toolkit and I've enabled symmetry, which will then allow me to essentially cut both sides of the model at the same time. And this is very much the best workflow that I can recommend to anyone. It just kind of halves the amount of time that you're spending on creating UVs. Simply because you're doing one side and the other side gets done for you. This is the same type of workflow that you would typically find in something like Headers UV Layout or Unfold 3D and so on and so forth. So brand new workflow, symmetry, and essentially just start selecting your edges. So I'm going to start off cutting the limbs. Kind of sounds pretty hectic if you think about it, cutting off the body parts, but hey, that's one of the UV things that we have to do. Typical 3D workflow, cutting off the body parts. So I'm going to choose these edges, and I'm going to cut the head around there. So I'm deciding right off the bat where I want to add the seams. I'm going to select the ears down. There we go. I'm just going to cut all the way around. I'm also going to choose, let's see. Let's cut here for now. So the cutting is done through polygons and then cut UVs. So this is the typical menu workflow. What I tend to do is using marking menus. I've already explained to you guys, my method is using the shortest and easiest route to get to my tools. And if you jump into marking menus, you're going to make your life a lot easier. So inside the UV editor, with those edges selected, I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to right click, and you can see I've got Move and Slow, and I've also got Cut UVs. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to cut it, and right off the bat you can see there's thicker lines. Those are the border edges that I was referring to previously, and those allow me to essentially see the edges that I've cut. So those are my first big cuts. I'm going to jump in, cutting off the tail. I'm going to cut the feet. Let's see, I'm going to cut the all around the mouth. I'm going to cut around the eyelids, and I'm going to cut around the inner border of the ear. The hands, same thing. I'm going to cut them along the wrist, and I'm also going to cut down the center line all the way through all the fingers, and that's going to allow me to unwrap all of the body parts. I've also gone and created some very basic primitive sphere eyes. I just want to quickly hide them just so that I can show you guys on the inside. The inside, it's solid, it's not open. You guys can cut it out and leave it open. My typical setup is just kind of filling the inside and then bridging across. So you can choose what you want in this opinion, but I've gone ahead and closed it up, so I'll have to do additional cutting inside there just to make the UV space a bit clear. Great, so I'm going to go back again and do an extra bit of cutting. I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to cut all the way along the eyelid over here. The other side is done automatically. Let's do the mouth, same kind of thing. I'm going to cut, let's see, there's a good, I'm going to cut around the outside of the lips. Somehow deselected the eyes. I'm going to cut over here for the ears. Yep. Maybe here at the back of the ear as well, all the way around, like that. There we go. And wrist. Gonna cut there, and I'm gonna cut all the way along the fingers. Right, so this one is going over the top, over the thumb, around, and there we go. So that's cutting it all the way through the hand. So the tail, kind of cut around there. I'm going to add a cut line up to there, should be good. I'm going to leave this one. You guys will see what's going to happen. I'm also going to cut through the crotch area over here. That should be a good seam line. I'm defining these seam lines ahead of time, and I'm not doing them blindly. I've done this a few times, and I'm adding them in very strategic places. if you consider this as a typical seamstress type of scenario where you start off with templates or garment panels that need to be sewn together, then it kind of makes a lot more sense because you can kind of understand how a three-dimensional shape goes into a two-dimensional shape using those seams, and that allows us to relax the shape a lot more cleanly for best possible definition. So I'm going to quickly continue with this, cutting all along the foot, and I'm going to cut over here as well. And I'm also going to decide to cut here at the back just to open up that plane of the foot. Great, so I've got pretty much all the seams that I want for now. I'm going to go back to my UV editor, holding down Shift, right click, cut. And now I've defined pretty much all the baseline seams, except for one. There's one missing. We need to cut along the back and along the head, and up to about here should be good. Oopsie. Yeah, up to there should be good. Going to define that as well. Cut. Great. Now these are all laid out for me. So I'm going to go right click into UV space, and that's going to allow me to essentially select UVs all along the model. I can do drag selects, I can do the full UV borders if I want, but for now I'm going to just show you guys one leg or one part at a time. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot about the arms and the legs. There's one additional bit of seam that I need to add, and I'm going to cut along the bottom edge. Yeah, one there, and on the inside of the leg from here to there. If you don't add those, a cylinder like the leg and the arm wouldn't really know how to unfold itself, so those are crucial to good unwrapping. I'm going to cut there as well. Great. And now I'm going to do an unfold. So how did I do that? How did I quickly convert to shell? So I'm going to do it again. I usually right click, I drag a selection over a specific UV border, I hold down Control, I do a right click, and then you've got options to convert to a selection. Let me cancel this for now. Okay, so holding down Control, I can do two edges, two faces, two vertices, two UVs, and so on and so forth. So I've done a Control convert to shell. That's going to quickly convert to the shell, and it stops at the border edges, so this is nice. So I can quickly do a conversion, pull this body part out, and just do a shift, right click, and do an unfold. Now you can do an unfold through the drop down menu as well, down here at the bottom, unfold, or my marking menu method is I do drag Control to shell, holding down Shift, right click again, and then unfold to UVs. So unfold UVs, it's actually going to unwrap it best as possible, and you see, very interestingly, the new 2015 unwraps all the panels for me without me spending that much time on it. So I'm going to undo and actually show you guys how it did that. If I go into the options for the actual unfold tool, you'll see it's using a brand new unfold 3D method, which is a brand new algorithm, way better than the legacy. It allows me to spend much less time trying to unfold and relax and smooth the UVs. But you see down here under the solver options, it's automatically got a pack option. I tend to turn this off just because I want to unfold each one individually, and then later on I want to pack it. So what the packing does is it's taking all the panels and just stacking it within the 0 to 1 space. So I'm going to do that last. So I'm going to go back to the options, make sure that option is turned off. And yeah, and then it's just a pretty much hit apply. It's going to unwrap it best as possible, and you can see there's a slight bit of UV warping. Now we can try and straighten this out, but in my opinion, it did a great job with the unfold, and way better than the legacy version. But I'm pretty much happy with the results. I can't complain. Um, uh, I'll create another tutorial specifically on how to relax some other details and why certain UV borders are more important in certain situations, and so on and so forth. But for now, I'm going to keep with the default settings, just show you guys how good this new Unfold 3D um, is compared to the legacy. So I've done one. If I switch to the legacy, you'll see the old features like pin UVs and so on is available to me. So you can still go back and use the old legacy version. But so I'm going to show you guys how this one unwraps it. This one unwraps it very similar, but it didn't go through the smooth UVs. So the typical old classic workflow is doing an unfold, and then you have to go and actually use the smooth UVs tool, this button here at the top. If I click on that and I hold down the unfold button, I'm going to unfold, and then drag until it completely relaxes. And now it's very similar, pretty much exactly the same as the Unfold 3D algorithm, this method over here at the top. So it's just a much less spending time on going through the unfold and then doing a smooth UVs with click drag. Yeah, so this is essentially the old classic way, and if you use the new Unfold 3D in 2015, you don't have to go through the relax, unless there are certain things that you need to clear up. Great, so I'm going to do an unfold, I'm going to hit apply, it's going to scale it automatically for me according to space. I'm happy with that. I'm going to move it up. Great. Just like that. Should be good. Just stack them up on top of each other for now. And I'm going to go and rush through these very quickly, just because I don't want to spend too much time boring you guys with all the cutting and opening, cutting again. So yeah, I forgot about these down here. I need to cut that. I'm going to convert to UVs, convert to shell, do a new unfold again. That's going to unfold it very nice and clean for me. Great, I'm happy with that result. Cutting the ears, selecting this guy as well, do an unfold for me. I'm going to use this button here at the top, which is called Smooth UV Shell. Sorry, not Select UV Shell. Yes? Yeah, Move UV Shell. And that's going to allow me to divide these guys up and separate them for the purpose of cleaning up this mess or the layouts. I'm going to stack these guys together. Stack them together like that. Great. For the face, same kind of thing. I'm going to select the face, convert to shell, do an unfold, unwrap. There we go. The face looks really clean and simple. For the eyes and the mouth, I'll tackle that shortly. Same thing with the hands. I'm going to do an unfold. Great, so that's done. Same thing with the hands. Now I've got two UV panel selectors, and the cool thing about the Unfold 3D, it actually unfolds all the panels for me, and then I can just kind of move them off of each other, just so that I don't have to leave them stacked on top of each other. This guy, unfold. Great. You can see how fast this becomes once you understand where those hotkeys are, like the control conversions and the shift right clicks for unfold. You'll find yourself being a lot more sufficient and spending way less time on going through the menus, clicking the buttons, and so on and so forth. But yeah. So once the initial layout is done, it's very much just a process of unfolding and And last step then in the process would be obviously packing them. Great, so that's laid out, that's laid out. We need to go to the mouth. So the mouth, I'm going to cut here in the corners. I'm going to convert and go to the mouth in 3D space so it's slightly easier to see what's going on. So this is the inner edge, 1, 2. Other side is selected for me as well. I'm going to cut there, select the mouth, convert to UVs, and then unfold. There we go. That looks really good. The eyes, like I said, we need to cut the inner parts out so that it unfolds properly. Gonna cut there, there, and there, and there. Right. I'm going to leave this bottom edge open so that it actually unfolds on this edge. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, then I'll cut all the way through. Oopsie. So shift, right click, cut. There we go. And unfold. Great. This one looks good. Unfold. And that one looks good. Actually, no, I'm not too happy with that. I might as well just cut all the way through. Oh, completely forgot about this one. That's probably why. So unfold. Grab this one, unfold. Yeah, much better. I'm happy with that. Okay, great. So essentially I've laid out everything that needs to be laid out. Now it's packing time. So there's two ways of going about it. You can either use the the classical old layout, and then we can choose to say pre-scale this based on the object. So each UV panel will scale according to the size that it is in 3D space. And I'm going to make sure it's scaling uniformly. And I'm going to say let's do a free rotation and see if we get a good result. And I'm going to go to yeah, full square should be good because that's going to fit within the full square. And I'm going to hit apply. So once I hit apply, Maya is automatically stacking everything into one of the UV U2 U1 and then V1 space. And then after that, I've got a very clean UV unwrap for my character to then take into Mudbox or Photoshop and start painting onto my my UVs. So this is a very basic tutorial. I hope this helped you guys. If you need anything, if you want to ask me questions, please put the questions down below, comment, and then subscribe. I will keep you guys up to date with any questions that you have. Take care, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.